If you are currently going through a spiritual awakening and wondering, is this supposed to be this hard? Am I supposed to be going through this? You're not alone. Today I'm going to be going over the top 5 things I wish I knew before my spiritual awakening. And something I wish I had my future self, my current self right now, saying this to myself maybe 8, 9, 10 years ago when everything completely changed. And I hope that this video is able to help you. If you're new here, hi, I'm Chica. I help hundreds of souls the past 8+ years heal themselves as well as healing myself through ancient practices, plant medicine, and other practices as well. And I also train healers to help step into their gifts and be of service with their community and for their community. So let's get right into it. One of the biggest things I noticed, the number one thing, was healing is not a straight line. It's not supposed to be just like a singular line. I think when I started healing, I Googled, I YouTubed meditations, healing ceremonies and full moon, new moon meetings and angel numbers. And I thought that, okay, I got this message. I know what 111 means. I know what 222 means. I know that manifesting with affirmations for money and abundance is going to work. And it's not that easy, because when we start to heal and we awaken the truth within ourselves, what happens is all the parts of us that were misunderstood, the parts of us that, maybe were hiding behind masks, and various other versions of us that are coming from the bottoms of our being, come up to the surface because they finally feel safe to heal. So if you are someone that is feeling like, why did I feel like I had to do this for my healing and now I'm here? That's completely normal. Just know that every day, you just take it step by step and know that the healing process isn't supposed to look perfect. You aren't supposed to be perfect. And if it's squiggly and all over the place, welcome to your awakening and you're on the right path. And on this note, I also want to talk about, it's not beautiful. It's not supposed to be some pretty light and love. You're speaking to someone who works with medicines and shadow work and body work. And really the focus that I really help hundreds of souls do, and what I'm going to share with you, is that the beauty is being able to feel it all. To feel the sadness, to feel the grief, to feel the shame, to feel the awkwardness, to feel the feeling that I don't know who I am, to feel all of that, to feel the unsafety, all of that. Because the more that we can feel what feels frustrating or resentment or anger or unaligned, maybe confused, that is actually a sign that we have an opportunity and a choice to realign ourselves throughout this. So our awakening, which a spiritual awakening is when we go through a big change, a big life change, which obviously you watching this video, this is what you've gone through. It is understanding that in that period of void, in that period of loneliness, what happens is you hear all the answers. You see all the answers. It's how much of ourselves is trying to create an expectation of how long I should heal, what healing should look like, where I should be on my healing, because that doesn't exist. What does is our presence right now and how much truth has been awakened in you in this present moment. And the last part that I want to talk about with healing not being a straight line is healing is something that we do again and again. You most likely are a soul that is clearing out a lot of generational trauma. And you're probably going to be one of the last ones to clear out that, because you made it no choice coming into this life and into this family that you would do so. And you're maybe, for some of you, are sitting there being like, I'm tired of being that one. I'm tired of it. I used to be the same as well. But honestly, what happens is knowing that the fact that you created this contract within your soul and your spirit shows you how powerful and what big things are to come on the other side of this loneliness, integration, clearing, tower moments, all of the things, right? So just understand that you are the one, you are the prayer of your ancestors to come here and to essentially know that everything stops within someone in that lineage that decides that that's enough. And that's you. So that shows how powerful you are. That shows how determined you are. That shows how much you're ready to be free. And that freedom that is within you, that you are on this path right now, which is essentially something I wish I knew, will embark something you can't even manifest in your journal right now. What you're writing in your journal are the crumbs to something bigger that we can't grasp with our hands. We can only feel it, and the drum gets louder as we get closer to it. Okay? Hope that hit. I felt like I was a little bit channeling there for you. Let me know if that hits or if something moves through you in that. The second thing I wish I knew before my spiritual awakening is you have to grieve your old self. There were so many times when I would walk and like be experiencing life and just having every version of me, and I didn't take time to integrate that version of me. I didn't take time to let go of that version of me. And the best analogy I like to share is if you do not grieve the versions of you, the old versions of you that you have sat, you have healed, you have screamed with, you have cried with, you have sat in the numbness and the humility and the ego shedding and all the things. If you don't grieve that, then you just become this physical body holding empty, void skeletons of old versions of you. You become the hoarder. I like to call this the awakened hoarder. It's the person that goes through ceremonies and healings, and they've done all the things, but they're kind of using all those versions of them as trophies. And that's not really awakening. If anything, it's like kind of falling into the vainness of our old selves. It's creating it as a badge as opposed to, I let that go, I let that free, I give gratitude to that version of me. And till we meet again or never, depending, I just want you to know that thank you so much for all the healing that you do. I'm going to switch where you guys are because I can see the lighting. Let's sit here. The tree is like, the light's moving, so hopefully I can move the light a little bit here. Let's see. Okay, here. So hopefully this will be good for you guys. Yeah, so it's all about understanding that we're grieving the old versions of us. If we don't grieve those old versions of us, we become collectors. And this brings me to the third thing I wish I knew before my spiritual awakening, and that is, it is okay if your family and your old friends are not able or aren't down with the evolved version of you, as far as your boundaries, what your path is. You know, I know for me, I can speak on me stepping into this healer path. Some people, my family members, still don't know what they do. Like, what do you do again? And I'm like, that's great. That's all good. You don't need to know what I need to do. There's a lot of, I think, what's the word? Weight on people's careers and making them an attachment of their identity and measuring people based on the name and title of what they do in the workforce. I say workforce because really that's what it feels like energetically. But then when I moved into this work, it became more heart-led. It became part of me. And it just meant that those older versions of people or older relationships just couldn't hold all of me. And that's okay. That's completely fine. I just allow myself to grieve that yes, I can't have this conversation with my best friend since I was in high school, right? Like, yes, I can't be able to talk about this dream with this person, right? And until you accept it, what happens is you stand in between the threshold of, I wish I had that. And you actually put yourself through your spiritual awakening in an energy of scarcity, the scarcity of support. So let that sit with. Once you've accepted how much your family members and older people in your life can, and you know, family is a little bit of, I want to highlight this specifically because they are your blood, right? We give gratitude for them teaching us so much, but they are our family, our loved ones, and the light's changing again, but we're just going to deal with it. They are our loved ones, right? But at the same time, I think it's really interesting to know that we give gratitude and thanks to them, because without them, we wouldn't be able to create this clearing within our generation, within our lineage. And without them, I wouldn't get to know myself, right? Because we have to understand spiritually, our souls choose our parents, choose our siblings, choose our family members for this soul meaning to understand and learn this earth experience, right? And that was something I wish I knew, that I chose, you know, that mother, that father. I chose them to be there, whether they were present or not, or I wanted them to be this and they were not. I chose that. I accepted that. I willingly came into this life for that. And I think that was one of the biggest things, so that it allowed me to have more spaciousness in my heart to receive the right people who are ready to hold all of me, be with all of me, love all of me, and we love that. The last thing I want to share here, last two things, is retreats, certificates, medicine ceremonies are simply one, a reflection of me, who I am. And why I say this is because I remember when I was starting doing ceremonies and healings years ago, I would always notice people be like, oh, I'm supposed to be a shaman and a healer and da 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 da. And I was like, one thing that someone told me, an elder told me that's been sitting with the medicine for quite years, and they said that the medicine reflects who you are, right? It's not that you are this person that's supposed to do X, Y, and Z. What it shows you is your essence, right? To then free you and to walk that path. Medicines are reflections of us, and they also show us teachings. And I think that's something that I've learned, especially now, stepping more in the role of facilitating medicines and being a carrier of medicines. It's very, very important to know that they are mirrors of us. They are essences of us. They show us our extension of our truest soul and our being, where we're meant to heal, what we're meant to receive, where we're meant to learn. And that's why I always tell people when they come to my retreats, it's teach me, show me, tell me, right? Like, allow me to listen and be like a child around a campfire, listening to grandma tell all the stories she knew when she was younger. That's really what the medicines do, right? And it's so beautiful to be held in that, because you don't know what grandma's going to tell you, right? And we can't assume what we know, what grandma's going to tell us. And we don't put pressure on grandma to tell us the story. See how everything changes in perspective? And another thing on the note of the retreats, the certificates, and plant medicines is that I need to integrate all of that. I need to integrate this into the biggest ceremony, which is life. So many times I would go through these big explosions of like healing and medicine, especially when I started out the medicine. And then I would just find myself running to, when's the medicine going to call me? When am I meant to do this? Da 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 da, all these things. And what I learned was that I was becoming a cycle within the ceremonies. It became a pedestal. It became something that I wasn't really being the medicine without it. And that's essentially the intention, is where you can be that medicine without it. And I really am seeing that the life is the ceremony. The life is enhancing our ceremony, our life, who we are as beings. So one of the biggest advices I can give you, this light, we're going to try to work with it with the tree, is that integrate your ceremonies, integrate your healing, because what's going to happen is you're going to feel ungrounded. You're going to feel like you're really in this void and isolation more. So live life. And what I like to say with all of my clients is that the best way to integrate after deep healing is to actually go with nature. Go into nature, go walking. It's very nourishing, and nature, the rhythm, it's been shown that even if humans take their shoes off, go barefoot on the land for 5 minutes, it actually completely helps regulate the nervous system to the rhythms of nature, as we are an extension of nature, right? So this was one of the biggest things, integrate in the sense of making it seem in the way and knowing that my soul has gone through all this work, and now my human is catching up, is, trying to catch up on the marathon, and I can't force my human to do so. And this is why I tell people it's so important when you go to a retreat, you don't just go right into work right away, right? Because then you're throwing your healing and your medicine experience out the window, or you're putting a pause on it, and all of a sudden, bam, it all goes in all together. So it's very important to integrate, to have sovereignty with these ceremonies, to have sovereignty with yourself. And the last thing I want to just point out too is go beyond therapy. I think one of the things that I learned, especially with plant medicine, I suffered with PTSD, depression, anxiety, insomnia constantly. Like, it was like, we're gonna play Tetris with this light. It was like such a hard thing for me. And in this process, what I learned was that, and it's even a lot for me to share this, but what I learned was that there was a part of me that needed something beyond just speaking my experience. And it got to a point where I was like, I know what happened. I know the trauma that happened to me. Now I need to get into integrating it. You know what I mean? So when I started to tune into that, that's when the answers started to come really clearly. And I have seen miracles happen to me and people who have either attended retreats, been in the circles of retreats that I've been to through plant medicine. And they have said they've suffered for 50, 40, 20, 30 years. And that's the magic sauce. The magic sauce is the truth, is that we can heal ourselves, that there is a cure to things, and that's nature. And with the weaving of different modalities, that is an option for us to step into our sovereignty, into our power, and into all souls being free in their essence. So I just wanted to share that before going into the last point of what I wish I knew. And luckily the light's a little bit softer right now. Integration is everything, and I want to talk a little bit more about this and hone this down. I'm going to break it into various parts of why integration is so important and why I wish I knew this during my spiritual awakening. Contractions. Contractions are essentially when you go into a new version of you, you rebirthed, you did the retreat, you did the healing, you're changing, everything is moving out of your life, and you're like, whoa, like I just do not feel the same. The contraction is the version of you that is realizing that all the things that you were start to feel like polarities. And for example, it's like you go to a retreat. This is a common one I have with a lot of participants. They go back home. Their house is exactly the same. The simplest things, from what's in the fridge, of maybe the attachment of sugar cravings, you feel the contractions. Maybe you don't have someone like myself, like the facilitator, or a group of people who've gone through the experience with you, and you need that space for integration. So this is why it's so important. I always have an integration session with all my retreats to make sure that the participants able to really go deep and land everything at home. And then also just knowing that that older version of us is still meeting the humans. So that means anything that our human version would act on or do is still catching up. It feels different, but it's still kind of testing the waters. A great example I had with another client is we were integrating attachment to food. And when they got back home, they went right into all of the foods that were attached to an emotion that was no longer in their soul and being. And they noticed that they had a really bad stomach bug, and it was energetic. So that's an example of just their contraction of like learning, just like a child learns that, you know, they shouldn't eat a lemon or they fall, and it's like being a baby again. And those contractions are the learning waves of our new version of ourselves and what we want to take, what we want to throw away, and how we're going to integrate that in our everyday life. Celebrating yourself, huge. A lot of the times when people get burnt out, which is another thing I want to share about, is avoiding burnout, why integration is so important, is seeing that you celebrate what version of you is here, right? Just take a moment, the fact that you've come to this point of this video, you're reaching out for help, you're getting guidance. It's like, we need to celebrate too. The reason why we're healing is to feel more free and at peace. And if you just constantly are just looking for a certain measure point for that, you're going to be motivated on a scarce kind of level or a scarce energy to, I need to just keep healing and healing and healing and healing. And this is where burnout happens. So celebrate yourself, because healing is, you know, the shadow and aspects. And I know that. But then, you know, it is important to also recognize, and that's why it's important for me to really, you know, understand a child, or even like that's gone through abuse, right? When they do something that is good, even just saying, you know, that you did a really good job there. Just letting them know, like, you did great there. Those little comments just give them a little pep talk, and it's the little pats on the back that they need that can be supportive. And then you can also give that to yourself. You don't need to validate that through others. You start with yourself first, right? You first. That's another thing I had to integrate, with me first. So then I could then integrate with other people and know how to give to others from a space that feels energetically reciprocal and fair to me as well. Get used to your new meat suit. So this is really interesting. I find like one of the biggest things and changes I had was with food and sense and sensitivity. And I had to get used to the meat suit I had, especially coming from different versions of me. I was depressed, PTSD, overweight, and then I got into super body dysmorphia. And then I got into obsession with working out and bodybuilding, and then I got into working out in general. And then it was like I've never really had, and this is just my healing experience of integration, a healthy space with my meat suit. So every time I would do healing, I would notice there was another fragmented part of me that was, you know, kind of looking for validation, that came in, that wanted to be seen. And when I went and I sat with no judgment and healed through meditations or retreats or plant medicines or dieta, then I would come home and I needed to integrate, okay, no, I know you used to go to the gym 6 times, 7 times a day, but your body and your energetic field can do now 3 times. And this is why I tell people that energy is everything. I remember I worked with a client years ago, and they wanted to lose weight. And they were also someone that had a very complex past with trauma. After working one session with them for an hour and a half, they lost 15 pounds. I'm not joking. In a week and a half, they lost 15 pounds. Why? Because they were doing the therapy, they were, you know, going and doing the healing, but they weren't integrating, and they weren't integrating the right things, right? They were just doing one part of their being, and their mental mind was like, I am not in that traumatic space, but their physical body was in fight or flight from those traumas. So then it would constantly create a shield within its being. So this is a whole other thing I can talk about, and I also want to respect the client, but this is what I can share with you anonymously. And this was a really, really important part. Integration is important to see the change. One of my favorite quotes and phrases I love to share with people, and I'm going to share with you. Okay, perfect. The light's back. Is that in order for you to see the change, and if you're like, I'm frustrated, I don't see anything happening, it means you're not integrating. That's what I wish I knew. If you don't see things happening, it means that you're not integrating. You need to do nothing to let everything meet your human reality, right? Because if you're always on go, like nature's never always in summer, it's in winter, it's in fall, and it's to reset itself. And we also have to get used to that as well and learn from that. So one of the biggest lessons I can share with you is if you notice that nothing's moving and you've done a lot of work, stop. Do the opposite, because we've been conditioned to think otherwise, okay? If you're noticing that you are doing the same things and it's not working, listen. Find solitude and listen as to what exactly is just not resonating, and I'm just having an attachment to these old practices that maybe I outgrown, okay? If you're feeling lonely, grieve. Open the space for grieving the versions of you that maybe you haven't grieved, right? So this is some examples of where integration is important in order for those changes to move through and for us to really truly heal from the inside out. So I just saw a bird, but I hope this was very supportive for you. Let me know what are some other things you experience in the comments down below during your spiritual awakening. And also let me know if you have any questions. I'd love to do another video about this, because I love talking about integration. I love talking about healing. And if you are someone that's like, I actually feel like part of my integration process is to have someone that can support me, I am offering one-on-one healings. I also teach and train healers how to hold space with integrity and step into their gifts. And I do a lot of healing as well for various souls. Just message me, email me through my email. And I do one-on-one retreats and small group retreats as well. So all the things, just email me, we'll connect. And I wish you all the beautifulness for your spiritual awakening. Don't forget to like, subscribe, all the things, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.